Hello everyone and welcome to a really awesome game that was played I think 2 days ago in the Turkish Super League featuring Denis Lazavik versus Ediz Gurel, and both of them are very well known in the chess world. Ediz Gurel almost pushing for that 2700, and Denis, even though his classical rating has yet to catch up with his online rating, online he can beat literally anyone in the world. So it's a pretty tough matchup, and I like the I always like to imagine a chess game as a story, and this game is I don't think we've had one such like much like this one, because it's imagine if someone plays a move that is the absolute best move. Imagine a flashy queen sacrifice, and you feel really good, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show this to everyone will be impressed, and then your opponent plays an even greater move, showing that your great move wasn't even that great. I don't want to say more because I'm going to spoil it, so let's dive straight into it. And we're going to focus on this particular event, as the rest of the game is merely how to nourish an advantage. So let's check it out. Denis with white opens with pawn to c4. We have pawn to e5 by Ediz, knight to c3, and bishop to b4. So it's the Kramnik-Shirov counterattack against the English. We have knight to d5 attacking the bishop, bishop to e7, and knight to f3. We have pawn to d6, pawn to g3, and knight to f6. We have knight back to c3 and castles kingside. Not a very well-known position, but there are some games in the database. We have bishop to g2. Pawn to c6, castles kingside, and now there is a game where bishop to e6 was played. It was played last year between Benjamin Bok and Akshat Chandra, where Benjamin won a very nice game. But here we have knight b to d7, and it is now as of move 8 that we have a completely new game. So it's a classical game. You can see that Denis is blitzing out all of the moves and not even wasting a minute. They started off with an hour and 30 minutes on the clock. Ediz burned a little bit of time. So, okay, pawn to e4, we have pawn to a6 and pawn to d4, finally opening up the center. And this is the first move where Denis actually spent some time, spending 7 minutes on the clock. We have pawn to b5, and now queen to e2. We have queen to c7, nicely developing. Pawn to a3 for future, b4. You have to have it ready. Rook to e8 and pawn to h3. We have rook to b8 and rook to d1. Bishop to f8, and now c captures on b5. We have a captures on b5, and now a move, you might not expect if you weren't, an avid follower of this channel, but here pawn to b4, I imagine, does not surprise you, and it's one of the top moves recommended by the engine. Could even be a top move, if you allow the engine to really crunch the numbers. So pawn to h6, we have queen to c2 and queen to b7, getting the queen off of that c7 square where the queen is undefended. And also, okay, for the moment, the knight captures on b5 wasn't a threat. The rook is defending it, but, a4, and you might already have some issues. So queen to b7. Definitely makes sense. We have knight to b1 and e captures on d4. We have knight captures on d4 and knight to e5 now. And this knight is excellently placed here. Probably f4 is the first move that comes to mind. Whether white will play it or not depends, but if white does, then knight to c4 is coming. However, here Denis plays pawn to a4. And the question is what to play here. Interestingly, best would be to play b captures on a4. And then once f4 is played, you just play queen captures on b4, and you offer the knight on e5. And this isn't even that great of a decision. If you play captures on e5, for example, d captures, knight captures on c6, let's say queen b6 comes with check, and after king to h2, you can move the rook. The rook is currently being attacked. You can play rook to b7. And black has a very, very nice position, and you also have to be careful. You cannot capture on a4. All of a sudden, bishop to e6 or bishop to d7. That knight on b1 is also looking a little bit weak, so you would have to be very, very careful here. But in the game after a4, bishop to d7 was played, and now we have pawn to f4, knight to c4, and a captures on b5. We have c captures and knight to c3. Now with both of the knights attacking that b5 pawn, and also you have to be careful. The queen is on b7. A move like e5 could really ruin your plans. We have queen to b6, king to h2, now also getting the white king off of this diagonal, and rook b to c8. We have queen to d3, pawn to h5, and rook to a2. We have pawn to g6, bishop to f3, and bishop to g7. We have rook to g2, now with some ideas of maybe opening up the g file, and rook to c7. Ediz also prepares to double up on the c file. We have pawn to g4, h captures, and rook e to c8. We have knight c to e2, queen to a7. Now the queen can also infiltrate using the a file, and pawn to g5. Attacking the knight, knight h7. We have king to g3 and knight to f8. The knight coming to e6. We have rook to h2, preparing to double up on the h file. Knight to e6. We have knight captures on e6, bishop captures, and now rook d to h1. So something is about to happen. You can see the rook's nicely doubled on the c file. The rook's also nicely doubled on the h file. And we have a most beautiful move, and that is knight to e5. And the question is, what is the idea behind the knight to e5? Is it possible to just capture this knight? Well, not really. If you capture the knight, then rook captures on c1 happens, and there's really not a good move that you can play. If you recapture with the rook, with the knight, it's even worse. But if you recapture with the rook, then bishop captures on e5. And now what do you play? King to g2. Now look at this. Rook captures on c1. Knight captures on c1. And now bishop captures on h2. And after king captures, the queen comes into the game. Queen to f2 with check. You can block with the bishop. Queen to f4 check, nicely connecting with the knight. So it's a pretty long variation, but one that was calculated very, very well. In the end, queen captures on c1 will happen. And this is the position you would have. You could also capture on g6, on d6, capture on g5, and this is the position that you would have. It would be an endgame of bishops with the same color, but black would be up a pawn. So it's usually the case that the side with the extra pawn is winning, but also the white king is wide open. So yeah, this will be winning for black. So that is the point of knight to e5, and this is where players start to throw around brilliancies. Now, you should play queen e3. You just get the queen out of harm's way and trade on e3, hopefully. But in the game, bishop to b2 was played, which really should get a double exclamation mark, even though it's a move that loses the game, but it loses the game in a beautiful way. And the reason for this bishop to b2 move is that, okay, let's remove the exclamation mark, is that if the white queen is captured, then after knight captures queen, you have rook to h8 check. Only move for black, bishop captures, and then rook captures on h8 is checkmate. But as fate would have it, bishop to b2, albeit brilliant, is countered with an even more brilliant move, that not the first one that comes to mind, definitely. So feel free to pause the video and win the game for Ediz while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, as this is not an easy one to find. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to f2 check. Look at this. I know it's disgustingly beautiful. Again, I have to say it, but it certainly is. And the point is that if the king captures, you have to capture, there's no other square for the king. The bishop and the knight are taking care of the light squares, and the queen now takes care of the dark squares and the g2 square. So if you capture with the king, then knight captures queen happens with check. And then after the king moves, doesn't really matter where, you're also going to capture the bishop, and you are now up a full dark square bishop. You have a dark square bishop, your opponent does not. So the only thing that's left, if you don't want to resign on the spot, is to play rook captures on f2. This is what was played in the game, and now comes knight captures on d3, but it also comes with an attack on the rook. And also the bishop is just hanging, so you have to capture the bishop on g7. Bishop captures on g7 was played. We have knight captures on f2, again attacking the rook on h1, so you have to react. King captures on f2, and king captures on g7. And now once you count the material, black is just up in exchange. 4 pawns each, black is up in exchange, and it is objectively a winning position. And okay, at this level, these guys will, of course, take advantage of a winning position like this. But this variation in particular, we can show it again one more time. So 96, a trade on e6, and then doubling of the rooks on h1. 95 and okay, that's it. This is just beautiful. Then an offering of a queen, and then countering it with a queen sacrifice. Queen f2 check. I mean, just spectacular. We can show what happened afterwards, but it's not nothing. It's basically very ordinary compared to what we've just witnessed. Some pieces got traded off. Okay, we have a trade of everything on the b file, and now you have this position, a rook versus knight, where of course the position is completely winning. It's merely a matter of technique, but I don't want to turn this video into how to win rook versus knight, as this is definitely not what this video is about, even though of course Ediz Gurel shows us how to do it in a most masterful way. So here, after knight f5 and rook to g1, this is where the position was put to a stop. It was in this position on move 76 that Denis Lazavik resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Once you move the knight, the problem is you're just going to advance the pawn. The pawn will have to be captured, and now after captures, you simply don't have enough. If you could keep an eye on the g5 pawn, it would be great, but the rook captures, and that's it. You're just going to checkmate the white king in some 10 moves. So yeah, brilliantly done by both of them. And like I said, it's very rare that we will have a situation like this where first a player offers sacrifices material, then another player counters with a queen sacrifice, and then the other counters the queen sacrifice by forcefully sacrificing the queen, and this one you cannot deny, so you have to accept the queen sacrifice. I mean, spectacular stuff. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed. A big congratulations to Ediz Gurel on this spectacular victory. And like I said, Denis can beat pretty much anyone in the world. His classical rating has yet to catch up to his actual strength. But yeah, in classical, there's still definitely room for improvement. And yeah, it's always tough to be on the receiving end of such a brilliancy. But it takes you to create a masterpiece, I always say. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Alexander Schaefer, Milos Knežević, Gerhard Henkelman, Amar Mirza, and Derek King for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still haven't, check out first link in the description below, download Lotus Chess, and start improving your chess today. See you soon.